You're watching CCN, Clarksville Community Network. Produced by Goodwin Productions. Powered by CDE Lightband.
Hello and welcome to the Customs House Museum for some baseball talk. I'm Phil Wood. I'm an instructor at Austin Peay State University, but prior to that I spent more than 10 years as a broadcaster with the Washington Nationals. On my left, longtime Major League catcher, Mark Parent. Mark played with 7 teams for about 13 years in the major leagues. Was also the bench coach for the Chicago White Sox. And on my right is kind of the man of the hour, a guy who was a walk-on in college, made it to the major leagues as a 22nd round draft pick. And we want to welcome Alec Mills from the Chicago Cubs, who on September 13th, 2020, pitched a no-hitter against the Milwaukee Brewers. And Alec, have you come down from that yet?
I don't know if I ever will, to be honest with you, until I'm probably done playing. But, it's definitely sunk in. I guess the whole levity of the situation is for sure sunk in, and I've kind of realized what I actually did that day, so it's been crazy.
A no-hitter is, they certainly happen. They don't happen every day, and in fact, your no-hitter was the 305th no-hitter of all time. There were 2 no-hitters pitched during the 2020 season. Lucas Giolito of the White Sox pitched the other one. It's kind of unique that both Chicago teams had
that was cool. That was cool.
No-hitters, but something that I'm sure Mark never experienced as a player, and everyone experienced in 2020, playing Major League Baseball with nobody in the stands. That had to be...
I did.
Did you?
During the riots in Baltimore.
Well,
I was coaching.
Okay, you were coaching then, but to me
crazy.
it's a different kind of experience. But I know that in a lot of ballparks they piped in crowd noise, but you were on the road.
Yeah, but there was still some semblance of crowd noise. But yeah, it was definitely strange, and it could have been one of those things where maybe it helped not having the road crowd there to kind of maybe pump me up, jinx me, anything like that. But obviously I'll never take anything for granted, but it was a special year and a special day, but everybody dealt with it, so I guess we had to too.
And being with the Cubs, everybody's watching, not just your family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody's watching.
The idea that you pitched a no-hitter on the road in a dome stadium with the roof closed, as I recall, how does that impact, I guess, the emotions of the game when you can't hear the home crowd cheering for you? I guess you can hear everything your teammates are saying on the field, but in a no-hitter, your teammates really aren't bringing up the fact that you haven't allowed a hit.
Yeah, no. No. I mean, past the 6th inning, nobody really said anything to me, to be honest with you. But like you said, I mean, it was kind of cool, especially in being in a dome. I mean, you can hear like the outfielders talking to each other in between pitches and stuff. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, so thankfully Milwaukee had the locker room was probably 15, 20 steps from the dugout. So I was able to go into the locker room and kind of sit in a nice, cozy office chair and relax in between every inning, especially towards the end. And I was able to kind of collect my thoughts and really just take a deep breath and kind of center myself back to what I needed to do.
No one can prepare for a no-hitter, but before every game, the pitcher and the catcher will go over the other team's lineup. You caught a lot of great arms in your career. Mike Mussina, Goose Gossage, Mike Flanagan, Mark Davis, Eric Schau. I mean, there's a long list of guys, Dave Dravecki. You don't expect a no-hitter, and I can tell you in the press box, once a pitcher gets through 3 innings and hasn't allowed one, that's when the no-hit pool starts in the press box. Everybody throws in $5 and draws out a number. Is there ever anything similar to that when you're behind the plate, you're thinking, well, we haven't given a thing up yet?
Honestly, for me, I always just wanted to win. So I wasn't really in tune with how many hits were up on the board during the game. Just if they didn't cross and I got out of from behind the plate as soon as possible, because foul tips can hurt. I like to get out of there. But when you get a game where a guy's pitching that well, there's quite a bit of pressure and you got to go through all the hitters in your mind more. You tend to go through everything a little bit, maybe second guess yourself a little bit. But it seemed like to me, watching their game, that the guy he had behind the plate did a very good job.
that guy, Victor Caratini, was traded recently to the San Diego Padres. In fact, Kyle Schwarber left the club and signed as a free agent with the Nationals, as did John Lester. The makeup of the Cubs will change somewhat drastically, really, going into 2021.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's going to be a lot of new faces in the clubhouse and something you'll have to get used to. But, you know, at the end of the year, I think probably every coach has said it, and, you know, it's not going to be the same group of guys the next year, and we all knew that. And obviously it's part of the business of baseball, so it is what it is. I think, you know, we all know we still have a good enough team to compete and, you know, really win a lot of games, I think.
This was your 15th start in the major leagues when you threw your no-hitter. In 1991, I was official scorer for the American League for games played in Baltimore, and in August of that year, the White Sox came to town, and they started a young man who had one previous start in the major leagues when he was with the Texas Rangers. Wilson Alvarez started a game for Texas and didn't retire anybody. He left that game with an ERA of infinity. This was his first start with the White Sox, and he pitched a no-hitter that day. And after that game, he was obviously somewhat hyped up with what he had accomplished. I watched the interview with you after that game, and I thought you were amazingly relaxed. I thought you were almost
unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, you were so calm.
I mean, I think it helped too with everything was over video, so you didn't really have the hubbub of the press and everything in the locker room afterwards. I think that helped. I think I had a good bit of time after the game to kind of relax too. You know, I did a couple interviews on the field and then came back into the locker room and kind of did a mini celebration with the team, and then. Yeah, I went back and did it, but I mean, I feel like I always try to stay calm. I feel like I'm trying to be the same person every time out, so I guess I can take that as a compliment that you thought I was calm, so it was good. I definitely was not calm. Didn't really know what to say to a lot of people, so some of the answers probably weren't the best, but that's all right.
Well, one thing about throwing a no-hitter, most of the post-game questions are pretty much the same regardless of who actually threw it.
Yeah.
I was just curious in terms of what was the reaction of the Cubs front office. I know in many cases when a pitcher throws a no-hitter, there's an immediate bonus of some kind, that you get some kind of a premium.
Well, like I said, with this year being different, I don't believe any of them were on the road with us in Milwaukee, any of the front office guys or anything like that. But as soon as I got back, they all went out of their way and came in and congratulated me. And I think, you know, pretty much every one of them wrote me a handwritten letter, so that was cool. And the Cubs actually got me and Victor Rolexes each engraved with the date and everything on it. So that was really special for them to do that, obviously. You know, I think it's kind of the pitcher's job to do that, I believe. But, you know, like you said, that was my 15th start, so didn't have as much in the bank as some other guys did with that. I actually was able to get Victor a watch, well, me and Victor a watch from, it was a company called Oris, and they actually, they had just come out with a Roberto Clemente, memorial watch, and Victor is Puerto Rican, so that was, and we actually had just had the Roberto Clemente Day, and he was one of the ones that chose to wear 21, so I thought that was a really cool thing for me to do, and I think it was hopefully something that meant a lot to him, and so that was cool for me to do that. But then, yeah, the Cubs got the extra Rolexes, so that was cool.
Mark and I talked before we started here about Nolan Ryan. Nolan Ryan threw 7 no-hitters over the course of his career. He pitched till he was 46 years old and was still throwing in the 90s when he was in his mid-40s. Now, did you ever catch a no-hitter, or did you ever play in a no-hitter?
I'm sure I've been no-hit before. Like I said, I don't. Phil Humber, that one of those years when I was coaching in Chicago, threw a perfect game for us in Seattle. And he had a slider going that all those free swinging guys up there were swinging at, and it worked out good for him. But no, I was in the dugout and on the DL when Nolan threw his 7th in Texas. And it was incredible. He was 40 at the time, maybe, I don't know.
I think he was 45 at the time.
I don't remember, man. Yeah. He's up there, and and after the game, he's got a beer and he's on the bike with an ice bag, and no big deal. And I'm sitting there with Goose Gossage just admiring it. This guy, he just doesn't even care. I mean, he puts the work in and he expects to do well, just like you do. And all of his answers after the game were similar to his. He's like, my curveball, got me some strikes early, and then I got my fastball in command, which he did. And I listened to his interview afterwards, and man, he was spot on because his fastball was really good because he pitched inside well. Your catcher took you inside, and guys don't like to do that. They, especially when they're trying not to get hit, they tend to go away. But he went in and went after him, and that was really good.
One other interesting contrast here is Mark Parent was a 4th-round draft pick of the San Diego Padres in 1979, and Alec Mills was a 22nd-round draft pick of the Kansas City Royals. Now, most 22nd-round draft picks play a little bit in the minor leagues and they go on with the rest of their life. I mean, you had a remarkable rise from being a walk-on at UT Martin to getting drafted and getting to the major leagues.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always kind of a running joke in baseball. It's, you really just have to trick one guy in order to get a job in baseball sometimes. So, maybe I tricked the scout into, really, spreading my name that day in the draft room or whatever he needed to do. But, yeah, I mean, they gave me a chance. I'm always forever thankful for what Kansas City did for me. And like you said, giving a guy a chance in the 22nd round. And I really do feel like they gave me, every opportunity that everybody else got in the organization, which I think is a big thing. And sometimes, first round or second rounders, they'll get more opportunities, which, I mean, they should. I get it. It's a business, and, they're probably the more talented or more athletic people.
I wonder maybe if
more invested.
Yeah, well, that too, yeah.
Particularly in the case of the Royals, whose front office is largely composed of guys who came out of George Mason University in Fairfax, Virginia, a school I know well. But I think their attitude, because they went literally straight from college to the Royals, and obviously they ended up putting together a world championship team. But I wonder if they're more sensitive to college players than some other team might be.
I mean, I don't really know. I know in recent history, I think a couple of years ago, they took like 4 or 5 straight college pitchers to start the draft. So I think maybe that could be something like you said. But, I think a lot of those, going back to the Royals guys, I think a lot of them were a part of the Frank Wren era in Atlanta too. So I don't know a whole lot about Frank Wren and what he did, but I know that they, from what I've heard, that they took a lot of what he did, and that's kind of their, I guess not motto, but their philosophy nowadays. So that's definitely something cool.
Well, obviously, the COVID pandemic changed everyone's lives, some more than others, but baseball made some significant changes for the 2020 season. Number one, of course, it was a 60-game schedule as opposed to 162 games, and there are still some people, myself included, who tend to look at a 60-game schedule as being not much more than the exhibition season during spring training. The other rule changes, starting extra innings with a man on second base, I didn't care for that. I think some fans liked it. The other issue would be, of course, the relief pitcher having to face 3 hitters. How did you guys feel about that as major league players?
Well, the relief pitcher facing in the minimum, sometimes it can take jobs away from guys, especially, lefties or somebody that specializes in getting lefties out. But a lot of times because lineups nowadays with that new rule, it was usually left, right. I mean, you wanted to, so that guys couldn't stack. So, it's kind of one of those things, you come in, you get your lefty, and you just have to face one righty to get the next lefty. But there was definitely a lot more matchups, and, if a lefty, throws in better to certain guys, maybe he's better at getting a righty out, stuff like that. But, I think the big one that affected me was the DH throughout the whole league. I didn't have to hit, which, if you ask me, was a lot better for my mentality, I guess, for pitching. This year we have to go back to hitting, I believe, which is exciting and it's fun.
You've got 2 hits in the major leagues, Alec. Come on.
Well, so I was actually 1 for 1 to start my career, so I got a hit in my first at bat. It's fun. I guess it's fun and it's scary, maybe the best way to put it. I went 8 years without picking up a bat between college and then playing in the AL, so it was definitely a jump to something new. But I've always felt I was a decent hitter in high school, but then again in high school they were throwing 82, not 95. So
yeah, but a big difference would have been if you would have got, say, on an error or walked or even got a hit.
Yeah.
In that 5th, 6th inning, and now you're on base.
Yeah.
You got to run the bases. They don't want to pinch run for you. You have a
I mean, it's a big
Sure.
difference.
He had
Or-
a 12-run lead anyway, but
That's
he's
right.
going to stay on. He's going to stay in there, but he's got to run the bases.
Yeah.
Well, you were a major league bench coach and you managed in the minor leagues. Now, when you're managing a club and the pitcher you're bringing in has to face 3 hitters. If he walks the first 2, I want him to fake a heart attack at that point.
Well, you can't really. I mean, and it's just like he's saying, the matchups, from club to club, but it's up to that club to have a roster that can do the things you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I don't like the rule. I thought baseball was pretty good for 100+ years, and now they want to change everything. So, but I think if you want to bring a lefty in for a lefty and they pinch hit, then that's the way it goes.
Well, the premise was that it would speed up the pace of play. As it turned out, it didn't. It really had almost no impact at all on the pace of play, on the length of the games. But there was a game I went to many, many years ago when Dick Williams managed the Boston Red Sox against the Washington Senators. And in the 9th inning, he used 5 pitchers. He used a different pitcher for every hitter. And the Senators came back and won that game. But the matchups were compelling. They were enthralling, one after the other. And you will not see that happen again.
Another thing that was good for Alex is he had a 12-run lead, so nobody got up. Because there's a lot of times those games are 1-0, 2-1, or 2-0. In case he doesn't get the no-hitter, we got a guy warming up. So as soon as they get a guy warming up, because he's throwing a lot of pitches, maybe that pitcher sees that. They all do.
Well, I think especially with no fans in the stadium, you can hear it.
Yeah, you
Especially
do.
in a dome. I mean, you'll hear the
And you
pop of
start
that.
thinking, man, if I give up a hit, I'm
Yeah.
out.
Yeah,
Like this
absolutely.
is crazy. But it messes with your mind.
Well, Mark mentioned a couple of times, you won the game 12-0.
Yeah.
And looking at the box score, the bottom of the Cubs lineup did all the damage. I mean, they had 9 RBIs. Victor Caratini had 3, and Bodie had 2 or 3. And I mean, it was the Cubs' day to swing the bats.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they were, on fire that day, and I think somebody asked me the question, was it harder to pitch in a 12-0 game? I think for me that day and how my day started, I think it actually helped me, because I don't know if it was just trying to be too perfect or mechanically a little bit was off early, because fastball command wasn't great early on, to be honest with you, and I think that's when I gave up a couple of the hard hit balls, right at guys. Happ made the great play in center field on the catch. But I think getting up, I think we scored 5 in the 4th or something like that, and then 4 more in the 5th. But getting that big lead, it was like, all right, I had the mindset like, all right, a walk is the worst thing that can happen here. So he just started throwing a lot more strikes, and it helped.
If you've ever had a chance to see Don Larson's perfect game in the '56 World Series, Mickey Mantle makes a fabulous catch, literally going away from the field and backhanding the ball. According to every report I've read about your game, there was really only one ball that was barreled up, and that's the ball that Happ made the play on. Now, when you throw that pitch and contact is made, and you look around, what are you thinking?
Well, that one was hit to center field, so automatically I think it's like, okay, it's the biggest area. It's got a chance to stay. I mean, somebody pulls one and they hit it well, it's like, okay, that's gone, or off the wall, or so I think immediately the one to center field was like, okay, it's got a chance of getting caught. And like you said, or like I was saying before, with the crack of the bat, you can tell a lot now of how well it was hit and stuff. So obviously with the noise, I knew he had hit it well, but Ian made a great play and went out and got it, and I think it was big early on to do that.
When I saw that ball get hit, knowing Milwaukee, the ball will carry right there.
Yeah.
Especially in the old ballpark, remember?
County Stadium, yeah.
And that's and I thought, wow. Well, your center fielder did a great job. I mean, he made it look easy.
He did. That's
a lot tougher play.
it's when you watch the video, you're like, oh, it didn't look like a spectacular play, but like you said, he did. I mean, he went a long way, and the wall was catching up to him fast. It was definitely a really good play.
He might have not taken a goal, but the catcher did. I guarantee you. Because I mean, when you're back there and you see that, it's just kind of like the ground ball to short.
That was the one that got me.
Avi I had in Chicago as a player. He gets down the baseline.
Yeah.
And as a catcher, you see that ground ball, and you're thinking, hurry, get rid of it. Let's go, because that guy's moving.
Well, it rolled up. I believe it kind of rolled up his wrist, so he had to stop it and then kind of but I mean, it's Javi, so he's got one of the best arms in the game. So thankfully, he was able to get. I mean, and it was bang bang. I think they reviewed it and it ended up being right. So yeah,
it was about as close as you can get. As
yes,
bang bang.
Absolutely.
It was good.
They
got it right.
Once you've thrown a no-hitter, your stature, your profile changes in terms of the eyes of baseball. It's the idea. And Mark mentioned Philip Humber, who threw a perfect game for the White Sox, and expectations went up for Humber, and he never lived up to those expectations. And he actually had a fairly short career. I'm sure people have told you, Alec, this is no guarantee of future success.
Oh, absolutely not.
Items in mirror are closer than they appear.
Yep.
It's a remarkable accomplishment for which you have achieved a degree of baseball immortality. Now you have to follow it up.
Absolutely.
Back in the day, there was a pitcher with the Dodgers named Billy Lowe's who said he never wanted to win 20 because they would only expect him to do it twice.
Exactly.
And so it's a great achievement, but asking you to build on that is almost unfair.
I mean, I guess unfair may be a good word, but I mean, baseball and sports in general is what have you done for me lately kind of business. So I mean, that's the nature of the game. That's the job I chose. So
it's the job you chose, and somebody who's done sports talk radio for 40 plus years, and if I've heard it once, I've heard it 1,000 times, where someone will say, "Oh, it's a bunch of men playing a little boy's game," and my response is always the same: no, cops and robbers is a little boy's game. The degree of difficulty to play Major League Baseball is off the charts. It's incredibly difficult. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of kids don't do it anymore, because it's easier to do this at home with a controller than it is, because kids don't like to strike out.
Well, then don't play baseball, because you're going to strike out a lot. I mean.
Well, which brings me to the point. Doesn't it seem to you? Doesn't it seem to you though that strikeouts have become far more acceptable? Yeah. I've talked to so many players who have said, "Oh, it's just another out." I don't buy that.
No, I've seen games recently where guys, they don't mind walking the bases loaded because they're going to try to strike out the next three. I don't get it. I was the guy that, like I said before, I like to get the game moving, strikes, let your fielders do the job. Like, he's got some good fielders out there.
He does.
And you got to get the win. In his case, he got down to the end of the game where he had a chance to get a no-hitter, and by God, he did it. And that's just as hard as it comes. I mean, I think one of the best things I saw him do was take that little jog out to the mound. A little bit, like halfway out, you jogged out. Kind of like just, here we go, let's go, Instead of guys walk out thinking about it, or he never thought he was digging, I never thought he was digging himself, or he just was there to win that ball game for me. It didn't seem like he was trying to throw no-hitter. Boom, boom, boom. 2 strikes that the umpire didn't give him. He's another guy that's important. Sure. But he did give him a couple of them curveballs that I thought were.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Your ability to relax in the 9th inning without the aid of any Advil or something. I mean, your heart had to be just pounding.
Once I got to the mound, no, I really don't think it was. I mean, in between innings, yeah. Like I said, I was able to. After the 8th is when it, well, I say after the 8th. After the 7th, walking off the mound, it was when it was really like, oh crap, you got a good chance to do something special today. But I mean, and I think every player will tell you this. Once I got on the mound and threw that first pitch, it was business as usual. I mean, I think obviously I knew, the levity of the situation, but I mean, I was just trying to pitch like I always knew how, and like I said, I think having the 12-0 lead was big, and it was just, hey, nothing I can do in my head is going to change what's going to happen out here, so just go out and pitch, and whatever happens.
Let me ask you this. Who went over the other team with you? I mean, before the game. Did your coach go over it, or did you go over it with your catcher?
All 3. So we usually get all 3 get together. Well, and actually 4 or 5, because with the Cubs, the pitching coach will be there, but he works with I'm not even sure his exact title, to be honest with you, but Mike Borzello is big into the scouting reports.
Yeah, he's been around a long time.
Yeah, I know he was with the Yankees for a while, I believe. But so I'll meet with him, and then Brad Mills, former pitcher, he's with
Sure.
us now. So it was 4 or 5 of us in the meeting room, and yeah, we'll go over it, but then, walking out to the bullpen and walking back, kind of me and Vic will go through again in our heads, even if it's just an overall lineup philosophy, like, hey, today let's, righties, let's really stick in, two seams in, sliders instead of curveballs, stuff like that. So.
Was that what it was that day?
Breaking
I
ball
think
was good.
I think lefties especially was in. I think that lineup. I think that day was especially something I could get into lefties. I think Yelich especially was. I'd faced them previously in the year, and Yelich had actually got me for a 3-run home run previously.
Because you were up and down with it.
It was. I went in and in with him, and I guess in my head it was just like, you went in enough. Here you go, and went change up away, and he punished it. So it was just one of those things where I think, especially with him and some of the other lefties, it was like just stay there until they beat us.
For me is like for the older players, that's the most impressive. Pitcher likes to come in.
Sure. Well, you threw 114 pitches. You had 5 strikeouts, 3 walks. You faced 29 hitters. You had a double play behind you. Of those 114 pitches, were there any, because I've talked to so many pitchers over the years who'll say that every so often, as soon as they release the ball, they go, oh no. Did you ever have that moment with any of those pitches?
The last one.
Yeah, I mean the last one. I think it was a 3-0-3-1. I should know this.
Maybe it was 3-1. I think he took it straight.
And it was actually a pinch hitter because it was Yelich's spot in the lineup.
Right.
And I had no idea they pinch hit for him. So the player before, Tyrone Taylor, pinch hit for the leadoff spot, and I'd faced him in the minors a good amount, so I know who he was and kind of knew my game plan against him. But I think I caught the ball for the first out, and they announced Tyrone Taylor, and I'm like, oh, he was not in the game before, so it kind of, I don't know if that maybe helped me too, kind of refocus on what I needed to do. And then the lefty in the game, Peterson, I don't ever remember facing him, so that was kind of a new, and that was like you were saying, that was one that was like, all right, Vic, like you're calling it, I'm throwing it. It was not, I was not thinking, it was like, you know more about him than I do probably, so let's do this. So.
Well, it's a remarkable accomplishment in the young career of Alec Mills from Montgomery Central High School, Clarksville, Tennessee native, and have enjoyed the conversation. We wish you well in your future major league career, and perhaps we'll see you this next summer at Nats Park.
Yeah, let's do that.
Mark Parent, always a pleasure. Mark and I go back to about 30 years when he was with the Orioles, I still look at that year where you hit 18 bombs in like 81 games, and I thought, why isn't he playing every day? You're probably asking yourself the same question.
It didn't matter. I was just trying to get my time
I hear you
and
there.
win ball games.
Well, for Mark Parent and Alec Mills, I'm Phil Wood. Thanks for watching.
For current and exclusive content, subscribe to CDE Lightband, connecting you at the speed of light.